Welcome to my office. I usually meet in the classroom, but this time we're going to go ahead and meet in the office. I am so delighted that we have Deltek coming to talk to you today because they are just phenomenal. They have hundreds of analysts working around the clock to identify the best funding opportunities. Finding funding opportunities is one of the most common barriers to all researchers, all grant seekers. Where do I find the funding opportunity? And there's no one answer. As David hears me say 100 times a week, it depends, right? But I'm not going to blather on. I'm going to let Jason do the talk. He's got a fabulous presentation for you. I hope you guys will all lean in. And this will be recorded. Well, it is being recorded, which is great, which means that you can then share the recording with your colleagues at your universities. So I'm going to go ahead and just be quiet and let Jason take over the show.
Thank you so much, Sandy. I really appreciate it. Hello, everybody. My name is Jason Bagshaw. I've had the pleasure of working in the Deltek team for about 19 years now. I want to keep it conversational as we go through, so please, David is going to help keep me honest but I do see the chat, and I'll try and keep tabs of that as we go through. I'll just show my screen real quick. For the bulk of the time today, I really want to be live in our database. So GovIQ is a platform to help you find more funding opportunities. The one thing I wanted to just call out is that our focus is on the federal contract side of the house. So that's where a lot of universities are looking to look for all sorts of funding opportunities. Obviously, grants is the primary funding stream, but on the federal contract side, I think there is some really powerful competitive intelligence and insights that you gain from the GovIQ platform. If anyone wants to ask any further questions after today, by all means, reach out. We'd be happy to help. So just at a very high level, we provide visibility into the US and Canadian markets for government contract intelligence. And so this PowerPoint is available to you all, but I just wanted to cover just a few very quick things. The real key with GovIQ is the focus on finding opportunities early, finding federal contract opportunities early. And we really strive to do that about 3 years in advance so that universities can have more time to be more proactive and less reactive, more thoughtful in your responses and so forth. But there's a lot of other capabilities that come with the GovIQ platform. And I think once we go into the system, I think it will resonate a lot more. We also do provide unlimited custom research support to our subscribers. And without further ado, I really want to get in live because I think this is really it's gonna resonate a lot quicker once we are in the database. So for today's purposes, we're going to stay focused on our federal contract market intelligence. But from a competitive perspective, Sandy really wanted me to highlight how we could help when it comes to how the GovIQ platform can help when it comes to competitive insights. So one of the things that you can do is, for example, just starting at a very high level for R&D work in the federal contract space. If you look at fiscal 19 to fiscal 22, this is showing you just from an R&D perspective based on the top research and development NAICS codes. You can see the top departments that are spending the dollars for R&D work. Again, from a federal contract perspective, everything in our database is in K dollars. So you just want to add 3 zeros as you go through. And for example, let's just say we jump into HHS and maybe we want to see within NIH. So again, this is just a very high level. What this is helping you do is understand not just the top departments that are spending the R&D dollars in the from a federal contracting perspective, but who are the top agencies and who are the top organizations that are winning that business. So you can see Duke and Battelle and many names that you're very familiar with. So this can be leveraged in a myriad of different ways to understand really who are the top entities, universities, and so forth that are winning this business currently. And again, I'm just doing full fiscal years, not partial years. I'm purposely not including fiscal 23, but this allows you to see some of those insights. You can then flip it to look at just universities. So if you want to understand the work that different universities are doing from a federal contracting perspective, you can do that. So let's just say I go to Stanford And now I'm just looking at from Stanford's perspective, who are their top departments and who are their top agencies. So you can see what that looks like. So that is just a high level understanding of from a reported spend perspective on federal contracts that can help you understand what that looks like. If I pivot over to an organization, let's say Battelle, I'm happy to pull up anyone else, but I just thought I would show Battelle. So you can see we go back about 23 fiscal years, and you can see the total federal prime spend year by year, wherever that organization shows up on the radar. So in this case, they do go back, quite a long time. So you can also see subcontractors that have done work underneath Battelle. So this is a list of folks where the federal government has required on the contract to share who the subs are. You can also see where Battelle has been a sub. So again, from a competitive insights perspective, this is going to help give you added context that you might not be able to get your hands on otherwise. We are pulling this data from FPDS, so the Federal Procurement Data System data. So with the transparency rules and requirements of the federal government, they have to report on federal spending, but they don't have to report on all subcontractor spending. So this is just giving you added insights. We are also monitoring OTA spending. So OTA spending has become very, very popular and create a lot of interest, especially from universities. Why? If you're not as familiar with OTAs, they are considered, they're called other transaction agreements. And unlike a federal contract or a grant, OTAs basically, in a rough order of magnitude, don't have any rules like a federal contract or a grant. So they can, the federal government can award OTAs within days and weeks, and they don't have to go through all the same hoops that they have to go through on those other mediums. OTAs are really designed specifically for cutting edge R&D entities. So Silicon Valley, universities, anyone that's doing rapid prototyping, rapid innovation. So that's just something to think about. A lot of universities are leveraging OTAs to also look for other funding opportunities and to be a part of different consortia. So it's just something to keep in mind, and you can get access to that data. If I move forward to look at actual federal contracting opportunities, I'm going to go from a large overarching search, and then Sandy asked me to look at some specific keywords, but I just wanted to show you here, a lot of universities will put in, look for different contract opportunities where it's peer reviewed or clinical research or interdisciplinary or SBIR, STTR, and you can see there's thousands and thousands of results in the database, including all SAM.gov notices. So we pull all SAM notices in near real time. So you're not going to miss anything that's on SAM.gov. If anyone does spending time on SAM.gov, it is a very frustrating site to use, and we make your life a lot easier. So let's be more specific now. So this is the case that Sandy asked me to queue up that she thought would be relevant. So given that there's so many different things that you could search on, she wanted to use a specific example. So we did bioeconomy or biology or biologics or biodiversity or climate change, global warming. And so along these lines, so seaweed, sargassum, algae, so very specific. We're now looking at just 434 opportunities here. And you can see they're from, everything from USAID to Interior to Commerce to HHS. And you can see the ceiling values. So 1.9 million, $39 million, $40 million, $36 million. Some of these are very, very large, $300 million. And so we are tracking by our 150 plus analysts, we're tracking opportunities from cradle to grave. We're tracking opportunities ideally before they show up on SAM.gov. I'm going to show you what that looks like. So this one is an EPA. This federal contract is expected to come up for a bid in January of 2024. This is actually a very large opportunity, $170 million. The component of where your university may only be doing $3 million of that work, right? So the total ceiling value is much larger, but most folks that we deal with, they're coming in to do a certain part of that overall program and not necessarily the whole contract at large. If you come down here, you can see the incumbents. So you can see the incumbents who are currently fulfilling this contract work. You can see the reported spending year by year. So if you did want to partner with one of those prime incumbents on the recompete of that, you would have a laundry list of who to reach out to first. So not just competitive intelligence, but maybe partnering and teaming intelligence. You can also click into any of these entities if you want to learn more about them, just like we did for Battelle, and I will come back to Battelle. But you can see points of contact here. These are the folks that we're speaking with in the government from our analyst. And so you can see the latest update by our analyst. This one's for support services for climate change programs. If I go into timeline, we started tracking this opportunity back in August of 2021. And again, years in advance before it's showing up on sam.gov. So it's still not on sam.gov as a federal contract. But once it does hit sam.gov, those postings and all those updates will be embedded right here in the analyst updates. If you go into description on each of these opportunities, you can see what exactly are they looking for. Is this a good fit for my group within a university? And this is where you can start to really get a better sense of what their needs are and whether this is something that you would want to pursue or not pursue. I'm going to just pause for a moment. Any questions that have come up so far? Just David, how are we doing on questions? Looks like we're so far so good. I'm going to keep the chat to the side. Just if I see anyone else ask, just let me know.
Make the screen a little bit bigger. I'm a little bit old.
You got.
Thank you.
I'm right there with you. So you can see the contracts. So if I go back to contacts, I did want to call out anytime that you're looking at an opportunity, you can click into those individuals and not only see their contact information, you can also see any other opportunities that they're looking for. So I did get a question, is the government website free to log in? So it is a paid subscription. The idea of today is just to show you that it is available out there, but it is a paid subscription, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, after we fall off the call today. I can answer around any questions that anyone might have. We have a large cross-section of nonprofits and universities are using us, and for-profit organizations. We have about 6,000 customers in all. So this is going to really help you if you are going to reach out to somebody in the government to see what other federal contracts that they've been tied to. So if you were to warm up your call, this is just giving you added insights and added intelligence. So Sandy, thanks for that question. Is there a website that lists the organizations that subscribe to Get1IQ? There isn't a list per se, but I can certainly provide that in terms of sending you some relevant names. We do have 95 of the top 100 government contractors and many of the largest universities out there in the US that are leveraging our intelligence right now. So this one, ecological baseline studies for the US outer continental shelf. This is in the Department of Interior, Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. This is expected to come out in August of 2023. This one's full and open, so anyone can go after this opportunity, about $10 million here. And again, if you look at this, I wanted to show a few different opportunities just to provide some added context. I never really like to look at, just one opportunities. So this one talked about, surveying subsequent analytical effort will cover species that are federally or state listed as threatened or endangered species, seabirds, marine mammals, sea turtles, OCS, and so forth. So just to give you just a quick high-level overview, if you go into vendors and teaming, you can see you can advertise in priming or subbing on any of these opportunities. You can also click on what's called Smart Fit. So Smart Fit is leveraging AI and ML. And what it allows you to do is see who the best fit firms and universities out there would be the top fit to pursue that work based on the business they've done already and the federal contract business they've already done. So these are the attributes that would that a company would or an organization would be scored against. So you can see that this company has done this work before. They've done work for Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. So based on those attributes, this organization got scored, a 73. And if you click on each of the opportunities in a database, you'll see that right there. And depending on the opportunity, you'll see universities, you'll see nonprofits, for-profits, it just depends. And so that's just another way to get better insights in terms of who may be pursuing that opportunity. We also have awarded contracts. So we are going back, as I mentioned, about 23 fiscal years. So if you want to get a better sense of who's winning the business. We can do that. Here's 20,000 results looking at the same keywords from fiscal 20 to fiscal 23. And then task orders. So task orders are, in a sense, a mini RFP that's coming off a much larger program or a GSA schedule. It's basically a task order-based vehicle. Why is this important? The federal government will award very, very large contracts. They're really programs. In many cases, they're in the billions of dollars, including GSA schedules. The challenge is, once those programs are awarded, everyone out there, it doesn't matter who you are, unless you're one of the prime incumbents, you lose all visibility into the task order spend. So that, in a sense, those mini RFPs, so they award $1 billion program, and then they issue smaller delivery orders or task orders or BPAs, which might be, $20,000 for this in climate change research, climate change research, or it might be a $300 million task order. They can range very greatly in size, but for most task orders, if I look right here, you can see that 1.4 million, 89,000, 88,000, and then you can also see the spend to date there. So the screen is just dropped off a little. I'll come back here. So this is very helpful to see at a more granular level where those dollars are flowing when it comes to those task orders. If I look at one, this one's for climate change impact analyses. ABT Associates is the prime. This is out of EPA, $119,000. And you can see, what they're looking for here. And if there's any modifications on any of these task orders, you can see that here. Again, if you go back to the recording for this session, feel free to pause screen if you want to take a little bit more time, reading through any of this content. And then we also have about 1,100 agency profiles. We call them agency profiles, even though EPA is a department. You can see there's quite a lot of agencies that you can toggle through. So, for example, if I wanted to go into a specific office or what have you with an EPA, I can do that. But at a very high level, I can see top contractors. Whenever I zoom in, the font gets a little blurred out there. If I go back to 100%, it will show up as crisp, but just something to call out. So let's say I just want to look at EPA and I just want to look at organizations doing R&D work. I can see that here. If I refresh the screen and come out of R&D, again, let me just refresh that screen real quick, just because I've zoomed in. It tweaks that a little. Actually, let me jump over to NIH. So here's an example here in NIH. So here are the top contractors doing business in NIH. So based on the type of work that you're looking for, you can further down select by NAICS codes to see who's doing that federal contract work. And again, you can look at it on an individual basis, or you can go back to the spending analytics view and see holistically across a host of departments and agencies. We also have a lot of other very powerful information in our resources tab. So you can see a lot of really important budget documents. So this can be a big time saver to understand, where some of the new initiatives are for NIH. If you go into budget, you can see fiscal 24 funding highlights. So our analysts pour through just an immense amount of budget documents and other, research priorities and initiatives for each of these departments and agencies. So it's a really heavy lift. So we're really trying to cut down on the time that you would take in doing that yourself. And you can see a lot of that information sitting right here for you. Last few tabs I wanted to show is labor rate data. If your university needed to benchmark and shape labor rates on a federal contract, this can also help you understand what other universities. So I selected a few universities here. So for example, I can see University of Central Florida. I can see what they're charging per labor hour. So if I jump into any of these real quick, show you what that looks like. So if you ever have to pursue a federal contract, and there's labor involved, you're gonna most likely need to do a price to win analysis. So this can help you do that. The US government, federal government actually uses our database to do rate reasonable analysis to rule out, outliers too high or too low. So there's 20 million labor rates in here. This is just one, just as an example here. So just something to keep in mind. You can see the average escalation rate and so forth. And then last but not least, we have 3,700 federal org charts. We have about 105,000 federal government contacts. But again, if you want organizational information, for some defense agencies, they don't actually report that information publicly anymore. So it can be very difficult to get that information. So that's just a very high level walkthrough of the live portion of the database. But again, it is a living, breathing service with full research support, unlimited research support. We fulfill about 20,000 research requests annually. So if you want to spend some more time, unpacking the PowerPoint, feel free to do that at your convenience. But I'll pause right here. Any questions or comments?
Jason, we do have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Sandy wanted to know, in terms of the sort, will it sort by type of recipients, i.e. university, 503c, industry, et cetera?
Yeah, so thank you for that. So if I go back into awarded contract data, you do have the ability to so by type of recipients, you can, there's multiple ways that you can do that. So if you come over here, the results here are showing you just the top contractor results based on these keywords that we chose. So you can see right here. So you can down select to just specific entities, or you can just type in a specific entity and see all of the contracts awarded to them. So you can just look at universities specifically, or if you want here, this is another way to look at the data from a holistic perspective if you are looking at universities. And so, okay, so does GovWin also show smaller grants for early career researchers, or does it only show for entities and universities? So, so anything that's on sam.gov, you would see on our database, but we are not pulling data from grants.gov. Grants.gov is still a very functional website, unlike sam.gov. And so a lot of folks just leverage sam.gov directly. Grants.gov directly, forgive me. Because it is a functional website. It may not be an ideal website, but it's still very functional. And so a lot of folks around grants are really leveraging grants.gov, which as you all do. But it would not be a good resource regarding smaller grants for early career researchers. In general, though, a lot of universities that I speak with are looking to increase their commercialization efforts, regardless of whether it's College of Engineering or whomever it is, Office of Sponsored Research, Office of Sponsored Programs internally, where there may be some gaps in the grant funding. And so a lot of universities don't want to rest on their laurels. They want to supplement any challenges they're seeing on the grant side and supplement that by going after federal contract work, as you're seeing here with these, some of these top tier universities, including you all. So it's really an area to really grow your funding opportunity stream and to increase your commercialization efforts. And my contact information is on the last PowerPoint slide. So feel free to reach out to me directly. I'd be more than happy to answer any of those questions. We have about a few minutes left. Sandy, anything else from your perspective, or if anyone else, I'm looking at the chat to the right here, if anyone else has any other questions.
I was just debating whether I should just chat or should I just talk.
I like talking.
It's awesome. I think this is a robust tool. I love the fact that it has so much data in it, but there's also a lot of things that aren't here. And it's because there are so many tools that do other things so well. So if you're looking for foundations, you would go to a foundation website, right? This tool fits a specific need. And what I found, what is out on sam.gov, the things that are for industry contracts, task orders, things that are problem solving, use inspired. So what types of individuals do you think use this type of information the most or the best?
So what I've experienced in 19 years of working with universities is the primary user typically is from the Office of Sponsored Research, Office of Sponsored Programs, where they have a centralized effort to increase the commercialization efforts across the university. And they have obviously a very intimate understanding of the different unique skill sets within the R&D side of the house for the university or the higher ed entity or the research institute. So they are typically some of the top users, but a lot of the times it's it could be RAs, it could be professors, it could be anyone that's looking to, you know, find federal contract work or OTA or SBIR work that meets well with their specific subset focus. It could be cancer, it could be you know, weapons of mass destruction, it could be COVID, it could be you know, everything and anything under the sun. You know, I typically just have this generic overall search that I use, you know, interdisciplinary, peer-reviewed clinical research and so forth, just because a lot of universities are, they do a tremendous amount of work, tip of the spear, in a lot of these areas. But the beauty of GovIQ, it is an enterprise-based subscription. So if a university was to have a paid subscription, everyone in the university would benefit. And that way it's not pigeonholed to any one specific entity or another within the organization.
Well, what I found very interesting about this particular subscription is that you have a lot of forecasted things in here. Now, when you're looking at larger opportunities, you know, so a $5 million, $10 million, $20 million opportunity, the more lead time you have, the better. But it also allows you to look at trends like bioeconomy. Bioeconomy is something that is just proliferating the funding opportunities right now. And 5 years ago, same could be said of cyber. Everything was cyber.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
being able to identify those trends and seeing where your research fits within those trends is helpful.
And that's the benefit, Sandy, just a footnote, is this is where the federal spending analytics really helps to look at the trend lines. And I like to go back before COVID just to have context. So for example, Air Force, 10.6 billion, and then, you know, is continued to increase from there. So in many cases, you're seeing the overall R&D spend increase. But for example, in some cases in defense, you know, it went up during COVID and actually started to come back down where it was in fiscal 19. This is where you could put in a NAICS code, a PSC code, you could put in a keyword, you could put in whatever you want to really see what those numbers look like from a trending perspective. It's super, super valuable to see that. Safe to say, the federal government is the largest client on planet Earth, and that's not going to change anytime soon. And when you look at the idiosyncrasies and rules with grants versus federal contracts and with federal OTAs now, you really have to be diversified in this day and age, because there's more and more universities and higher ed entities that are fighting for the same bucket of dollars. It just is what it is. And so if this can give you an edge so that you are just more aware and more in the know, and to Sandy's point, having that early visibility, that is the primary value of GovIQ for folks that are leveraging us. We have, of our 6,000 customers, we have about 35,000 users, you know, that are leveraging it. So one organization can have 1,000 users, and we have some that just have a few users. But just, Sandy, do you want me to just share some of the names that are leveraging us currently?
Sure, but I do want to make sure that everyone heard the answer of who uses this the most. And really, it's in your research office. So when you're at a university and you're like, I don't think we have this, I've never seen this before. It could be that you don't see it because you're a researcher out in a college or out on the in the trenches. But this may be a tool that is at your university that when you write to a sponsor research administrator or someone on the staff side, and you say, this is what I want, this is what I'm looking for, they maybe have this tool already and are using this tool, and this is how they're answering your questions. So the more you know about the tools that they have in their toolbox, the better you can leverage the tools when you need to get that strategic intelligence around the information that you want to go for. So, and that means also think about the other questions that you might want to consider. Not just what grant is out there, but is this a trend? What other funding agencies are looking at this? What other disciplines are considering this problem? Because if their tools are robust and sophisticated, like Deltek's are, then they could be able to give you more information in a graphical understanding. So Jason, feel free to illustrate any of those points.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. There's so many different ways that you can leverage the intelligence, and that's why I think we have such a wide cross section of organizations. So, just for example, so John Hopkins uses us, Georgia Tech Research Institute, University of Chicago, University of Dayton, University of Massachusetts, University of Florida uses us, SMU. So I won't go on any more about any of the universities, but just some of the universities that are leveraging us. And then Battelle, SRI, Merck, RAND, ICF, Mathematica, there's LMI, ABT, you name it. And then all of the integrators, the Lockheed Martins and Raytheons and, L3 Harris, SAIC, General Dynamics, they're all leveraging us. So it's really everyone and anyone and of our 6,000 customers. We do have a lot of small and mid-sized businesses. So it's really everyone leveraging us. But the beauty of it is that every one of the university would be able to leverage it. It's unlimited users. But really with the Office of Sponsored Research, a lot of it is they're really looking to leverage our tracked opportunities, because those are the ones that we're providing that early visibility that far in advance. So right here, so if I take out SAM notices just for a moment, to Sandy's point, that early visibility, there's 1,000. So right here, if I just look at forecast pre-RP, these are the opportunities that our analysts are tracking years in advance before they show up on sam.gov. They will eventually show up on sam.gov as a contract, but this is where we're providing that early visibility. So think about it. Here's 1,000 opportunities just by those keywords, just generic keywords, that are everything from $1 million to $500 million, everything from A to Z. So each individual user would put in their specific keywords or smart tags. It's another ontology system that we use, where you simply check a box and there's a whole bunch of keywords and NAICS codes that sit behind that smart tag, just to make your life a bit easier. The government knows what they need. They don't always know how to ask for it. So that's the beauty of the smart tag. You don't have to worry about using keywords, but there's unlimited training, unlimited logins. And so we would work with you to configure it. But again, the goal of today is just to show you another medium of information. Sandy just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention and just to let you know it is available out there. If you have any questions and want to learn more, please feel free to reach out to me. I just appreciate being a part of the workshop, and it's a pleasure to meet everyone virtually. And let me know if there's any questions or comments after.
You're completely welcome to stay online. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm glad
My
that we can
pleasure.
introduce our participants to all of the wonderful tools that are out there. And this is a really incredible one. I'm glad that you were able to share it today.
Thank you so much, Sandy. I really appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Jason.
My pleasure, David. I am going to run to another call, but guys, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I'm honored to be a part of this, and continued success.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
But you guys aren't allowed to go. This is still happening. We wanted to give you a snapshot of one of the tools that are out there. This one is a really big one. And I wanted to also share with you the different types of grants that you will be going for. He shared a lot of what is federally funded. And when you get a federally funded grant, that doesn't mean it's always a grant. It could be a contract. It could be a collaborative or cooperative agreement where the sponsor and you are working collaboratively towards a single end. It could be more of a purchase order or something that is an acquisition, such as a large piece of equipment or a boat. Wouldn't it be great? Super fun. And sometimes they are continuously funded projects that build your professional development. And one of the most common is like the NSF Career Grant or or any of the many career grants. And today you're going to get an email from me, and it'll go out to all the people registered, and it'll have a spreadsheet of literally hundreds of early career funding opportunities. And it'll show you the sponsor, the typical time that they are due. Sometimes it's one time a year, sometimes it's 2 times a year, and some of the keywords so that you can search the spreadsheet by keyword And I want you to really start thinking about, do I need a early career? Am I early career? And defining whether or not your early career is different by sponsor and sometimes by funding opportunity. So it could be the number of years since your PhD or the number of years in your current position. So look at those guidelines. And don't feel like if you're not eligible for this one, you're not eligible for any early career, because they all make their own rules. So I want to make sure to make that clear. And when you think about these federal opportunities, you think, oh, I don't know, this probably isn't for me. This is too moonshot, right? Well, maybe not. You look at these funding opportunities and you pull up a BAA, a broad agency announcement, and you see that it is available to small businesses. It's available to 501c3s, or open, unrestricted. Anybody can apply, right? And then you dig into it. It's like, well, it is a BAA over 10 years of $300 million for 13 themes across 26 task areas. Like, wow, how do I know which one to apply to? You want to find the specific task area that you really want to, that you fit, to make sure that their description of that task matches what you want to do, and then align that to all the other pieces up, right? So this task under this theme, this is where my work is. And sometimes that'll have its own deadlines, its own timeline, its own funding amount. So it'll be 300 million, but the task that you're looking at has 20 million. And this is going to give you $300,000 for every 2 years. And you can apply multiple times. Okay, then you have a better idea of what you're going to apply to, when you're going to apply, but it's all bundled that way. And that's how the BAAs work. They're bundles. They should probably change the B from broad to bundle, but I'm not telling them. So I'm going to include a BAA in the email that I'm going to send out to you today so that you can kind of see what that looks like. And it's from it's agricultural, but don't be dismayed about what type it is. Almost all of our major federal sponsors have BAAs. And what it really means is it's got more than one thing in there. It's not just one grant. Whereas when you go out to some of these sponsors, you look at a grant like Spencer Foundation, it says a small research grant. Any grant that is $50,000 is small. They're defining it by the amount of money, not the scale of your project or the number of people that you're going to have on board. $50,000. And then you have a large, and they have 2 funding opportunities. They are specific to the funding amount of money that they give in education, but it's very broad in how you want to apply. What education research are you going to do to advance that field? So you have individual grants and BAAs and fellowships. So say you are in a field that they do a lot of fellowships, like a lot of humanities fields and arts, creative writing, and a lot of social science fields, where you're going out and you're going to a specific area. So for example, say you are in history, and as a historian, you need to go to this specific library where they have this this special collection, and it's not allowed to leave the library, but you absolutely have to have this primary source as part of your research, and you're developing a book. Then you'd want to write a fellowship, and the fellowship application would speak to what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, why it's important, how it advances the field, and what the results will be. Typically in a humanities field, the result will be a book or a series of publications to advance the knowledge that can be used by people in your field, people tangential to your field, or in education, and often will inform policy as well. So contracts, grants, what is fixed price? I do want to make sure that I touch on fixed price. We'll talk a little bit about this more when we talk about budgets, but when you are developing something that's fixed price or fixed price contract, it means that you're, it's a different type of contract. So when you get your notice of award, so you apply, you get an award, and when you get your notice of award, it'll tell you that if it's fixed price, and if it's fixed price, then it say $50,000, then that's what you get for your project. If your project costs $51,000, then your organization has to come up with that other one. If your project costs $49,000, you still get $50,000. It's fixed price. And when we talk about budgets, we will talk about that a little bit more, but I had some questions, so I wanted to make sure I touched on it. So you will get grant opportunities. There are different kinds of grant opportunities. There are fellowships as well. And you guys are writing your research plans. So as you're developing your research plan, your research funding strategy, this is one of the reasons why we're looking at opportunities that are currently available, opportunities that are available almost every single year, that maybe the deadline is today. If the grant deadline is today, you just find out about it, you don't have time to write a grant, right? How much time do you need? You really need to be writing now as part of this course, so that when you find the funding opportunity down the road, you have developed content and you have really started to frame your ideas and how you would do that methodology, and that you're ready. And that's not the only thing that you're going to do between now and the time that you sit down to write your grant that you will be submitting to a sponsor. You're also going to communicate, create a network, talking with your colleagues, not just in your field, but also people in your institution, across the institution, and mapping that to what you want to do and how it impacts other fields, because that gives you a framework for thinking about your research and will inform how you articulate that research aim in your proposal, right? So you want to be doing that, and as early career individuals, you will also want to be building your lab, any equipment that you might need, any software that you might need. We talked a little bit about today, Deltec, and that's just one tool in your toolbox. What tools will you need in your toolbox? And what can you do now in advance of submitting your grant to be ready? Whether that is doing your biographical sketch on Science TV, or maybe it is finding out if your university or institution has the subscriptions that you need to the software for maybe research data analysis. Do you guys have NVIDIA or, well, there's like 100 different types of software, but what will you need to do your research, and do you have those tools in place now? And if you don't, do you want to include those as a subscription cost in your budget? Or do you want to learn the tools that your university does have? So these are the types of things you want to start thinking about right now. And part of that process will also be talking with people like at your library. Libraries are incredibly important resources. They have data management tools. They help with developing websites, and at our library and at many libraries, they will also help when you host things like conferences and seminars and symposia. So if your project includes a broader impact plan that says we're going to do this research in year 1, and then in year 2, we're going to host a symposia and invite everyone to come and learn about it. And it's going to be hybrid or it's going to be virtual. We're going to have a program. People are going to submit abstracts, and it's all going to be collected and available for people to view even after the conference, because they'll be recorded and it'll be posted in the library. And this type of thing will resonate with those people that are participating, because their life and their work lives on, but also with those sponsors, because you're giving them something that lives beyond the life of that grant. You're contributing to that synergy and that knowledge movement. So make sure that you don't just learn about the softwares of your university and the research staff at your university, but also the other tools available. So what other tools might that be? Libraries, clinics, what are other museums, art displays. So based on your university, you want to look at what is there. Maybe it is a 3D printing lab. There's so many possibilities because you guys are representing incredible universities across the nation. So think about those things. And I also want you to also consider those opportunities as building bricks. So today's grant will build on the next grant, which will build on the next grant. And as you're building your grant and your research portfolio of different sponsors, and you're developing those relationships with those sponsors, you're also developing relationships with kind of like a tribe of people. You know, and your tribe will include staff and administrators, librarians, scientists, and students. Students play such an incredible role. They bring fresh ideas and they help you think through things, invite their ideas. So those are the main points that I wanted to cover. I hope that that was useful. And I would like to invite everybody to come off camera and talk and share. Where are you at now? Where are you going? And how can we help you?
Okay, I'll go first. We were looking at a major instrument request for an NSF grant to replace our HPC. After conversation last week with the co-PI, we realized we don't have the broad-based support this year for it. So we're going to be using that as our guide for the steps we need to take the next year, so that when it comes this time around, we will have met those requirements. So it'd be much easier for us to write it up with things we've already done in the network we've already built. But this year, we still want to apply for a CC cyber infrastructure grant, because there are some pieces we could get through that would still impact the campus and help the researchers, the broad base of researchers we have on campus.
That's great. One thing that you might want to do in advance, since you're not going to apply for the MRI grant, is reach out to the MRI program officers and see if they need any peer reviewers. Maybe if you get some faculty to be a peer reviewer, then it'll give them some insight into what they're looking for in those applications.
Cool.
And this year, the first time, they do not require a cost share. Up to 3 proposals can be submitted by an institution, but it's by track.
Okay.
And the tracks are defined by the amount of money that the instrumentation will cost. And when you buy a big piece of instrumentation, when you get you're going to get a bid from a vendor that says, here's my piece of equipment. You want to make sure that that bid includes on the bid or on the estimate, the amount of money to install it. That I'm going to ship it, deliver it, install it. All of those other costs are on that one piece of paper, because that way it can be included as a cumulative cost, not separate.
Great, thank you.
And I think that it's great that you're applying for something that's going to really build synergy at Illinois State. It's also a great idea to, in advance, start sending out and socializing. Maybe you have a group of associate deans for research and talk about the types of research that you guys do at that university and the type of software, hardware, instrumentation, and build it. It allows you that opportunity to really think strategically and build. So do I have anyone else? And it's okay if you don't, because I know that you guys are all working really hard on your writing. I think this is going to be one of the biggest cohorts of grants developed as part of the grant writing workshops. It's been so impressive to see what you've been producing already. Oh, I did want to share one more thing. Let me see if I can just pull it up really quickly. Yes. I'm going to share my screen with you guys for just a sec. So I know that you guys, well, some of you are going for the career grant and have already started developing your pieces, your biographical sketch, your current pending, and getting that out there. Can you see this? I hope you can. And as you're thinking through those pieces, your building blocks, you see you're moving down your timeline. And here we are around the 23rd. Here you go, providing updates and revisions, your project summary, and revising a project description. So you're building your timeline for your project development so that you can get that feedback. And it shows you the pieces. And that's what we're doing throughout this course. We're developing the pieces of your project so that every week you're creating a complete and comprehensive and competitive grant application. Okay, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and include this in the email that I sent you guys as an example of a timeline for writing a proposal. When you want to create that toggled plan.
Hi, Sandy. Thank you so much for all of this. I wanted to ask you, so the first Mad Libs activity, that the abstract that had some placeholders was really useful. So I was wondering if there are similar templates for letter of intents and maybe later on, but the data management plan that we can probably look at.
That's a great idea. I love the fact that we have a DMP tool. And that's a national tool everybody can use. It's just DMP, I think it's dmptool.com. But what I'll do is I'll send it with the email that I'm sending out to everyone. We did talk about it a couple of presentations ago, but in the DMP tool, it was a tool that was developed and funded by NSF. And you put in the types of data that you're going to collect, and it helps you develop your data management plan. And it's really advanced the creative thinking and creative design of data management plans. There's also a BI tool, which is for broader impacts, and I'll include that too. With regards to a Mad Libs type of letter of intent activity, I don't have one, but I'll make one for you.
Thank you.
And I will include it on the email because that's a great idea.
Thank
So,
you.
yes, yes, and yes. Two of the things I hear a lot from early career folks are letters are so difficult because they're written so differently. And how do you know what kind of letter to write, right? So if this, again, it goes back to the guidelines. If the guidelines say that they want you to explain X, Y, and Z in your letter of intent, and they're very concrete about what they want to see, then be restricted to that. Give them exactly what they've asked for. Sometimes they'll tell you how long they want it to be, and you don't want to ever go over, and you don't want to be less than half of what they asked for. This is something that they don't always tell you. So if they say it could be 2 pages, You don't want to give them a half page. This is what I want to do. You want to give them at least one full page. So give them enough detail to make a good decision, but not so much detail to where what new will there be in the project proposal, right? And letters have a different tone, right? When you're writing a letter, it's more like when you're, say you're applying to be the vice president of research, and you want to come across professional and like you know your stuff, but you also want to be personable and you want to be you in your letter. So you want to strike that balance, which is different than the tone that you would use in a proposal, where the proposal is oftentimes more we and us and our, team oriented. So more in the email that I send you out today. I hope that it's very useful. And how else can I help you today? We did have our prompt questions. Anyone want to go to the prompt questions from the tag? Or did you have something from, and are there things in the chat that I'm not getting to? I'm sorry. Alexis, I see you. I contacted the program manager for the grant I will apply for and didn't have the best experience. I'm so sorry, that's terrible. For receiving your application, should I keep bothering him to meet or not? Probably not. No. So, would you like to talk a little bit about it, Alexis?
Yeah, sure. Well, for context for everybody, I just send Sandy a message that says, I follow her instructions. I contacted the program manager of the grant I will apply for. I asked him, I sent just a brief paragraph of the whole idea and that I was partnering with the University of Puerto Rico. He ignored me for like a week and a half, and he finally replied after. And when he replied, as part of the original email, I asked him, hey, I want to meet, right? So we can just have a chat about this. And he ignored that. So he just replied, hey, send me a full description of what are you doing, your main methods, and why are you leading this proposal and not the University of Puerto Rico, because the research is going to be at the University of Puerto Rico. I immediately reply with all the justification of why we're the lead and the University of Puerto Rico, provide more details, and say, hey, I would like to discuss again, with you about more details of the program, and any feedback will be really appreciated. He just replied, hey, great, this is a great idea. I look forward to receiving your proposal. So he ignored twice my request to meet, and then I was like, okay, should I keep bothering him to meet or not? I didn't do anything, so I just wanted to have your feedback because I don't want to step in the wrong, decision. So, yep, that's pretty much it.
Well, here's my feedback. One, when we're writing to program officers and we don't hear from them for maybe several days or a week, please let's not consider it being ignored, because it's possible that they're in the middle of a budget discussion around their next year's funding program, or they're in peer review. I mean, there are hundreds of things that they could be doing right now and it not be really that they're ignoring. So I know that when we have emails from our students, or we have emails from our colleagues within, and that we get responses sometimes within an hour, it's like, wow, it's 10:30 at night and they're responding. That's fantastic. That sounds like enthusiasm, and it might be, but it might not be. So try not to read too much into the time it takes to respond or not respond. And the other thing I want to make sure that you hear is they did respond with great, send your proposal, which they would not have done if it wasn't a good fit, if it wasn't something aligned with what their program is offering. They would not tell you, send this to me, if it's not something that really wasn't worth considering. So consider that very good news. Now, the The less good news is I wish that you had had an opportunity to meet with them in teams or talk to them about the actual proposal and think about what types of opportunities it might lead to create that rapport with the program officer. It doesn't always work out. Don't take it personally. They're probably just busy. That coupled with when you write your proposal and you're developing it, realize that you're going to want to get somebody else to give you an internal review before you send it to the program officer. And when you think about who should give me my internal review, and this is above and beyond this course, this is a standard operating practice that I want you to adopt, every single one of you. Think about who can do internal review of my grant at least 7 to 10 days before the application deadline. Somebody who's been funded by that sponsor, somebody who has served on a peer review panel, somebody who really may not even know your research very well, but is in your field or is outside your field and familiar with the type of research that you're doing, because you want to have some next step, a step away from you, a step of separation, so that they are bringing fresh eyes to your proposal and be able to tell you where those refrigerator blindness moments come. So because we write our grants and we know what we're talking about, we know steps A through Z, but someone with a step away of separation will see when you miss step J. It's like, wait a minute, I went from I to K. What? How did I get there? But we won't always see it because we know how to get there. So you want someone close, but not too close, trusted, but not your friend group, because you don't want them to not tell you the bad news, right? And someone who understands the science, but not necessarily in your science. Okay. It feels like a soapbox sometimes. I'm sorry. It's well intended. Comes from a good place. So do I have anyone who would like to give a piece of advice or share a positive experience based on what you've learned or the direction your grant writing is going right now? No? Okay, I will share mine. It's fine. So we developed a one-page concept. We sent it up to the program officer saying, here's our idea. This is what we'd like to do. And we said, we'd like to schedule some time with you to really talk it through. And they said, we can't schedule time with you. They can't always, and that's fine. But here are our thoughts on this one page. And most of it is what we anticipated, but one piece of it was completely unexpected. And it was, we really think you should find somebody with this certification. It is a professional development grant to help develop research administration, grow the field, and advance the field. And one of the recommendations is you should have somebody from HR give you some insight into how these types of positions are classified. And I thought, wow, that is really great. I didn't even think to add someone from HR. So it can be really surprising and very beneficial. So Norma Alcantar, would you like to provide any feedback or thoughts? Or Shri Murthy? Ooh, you had not been feeling well last week. I hope you're feeling better. Okay. Well, it's all good. I hope you guys are doing well in your progress. Thank you for submitting your Mad Libs. Angeline?
Yes, I do have a quick question. So I'm working on a dissertation completion no, sorry, dissertation grant from NIH.
Mhm.
And I've been working on it for a while, and it's just like, how do you know when you get to a point where you just submit it, because it's like you get like into perfectionism and you're getting so many opinions, and then you keep changing it, you just keep changing it. So, and I know like I've heard that NIH is just funding ideas. So, stop to not have like that perfectionist syndrome, but like, how do you just know when just, okay, I just need to submit it. If I do revisions, I have to accept that.
Better is the enemy of done.
Yeah.
Yes. I suspect that you have someone that you work very closely with. And it's at that point where you say, okay, final, we need to get to final. Is there anything else that needs to change before we can mark this final? So if you don't have that sense within you, if you don't go, okay, it's not going to get any better than this, this is perfect. Well, nothing's ever perfect. It can always get better, but this is what can be submitted and be funded. It's competitive. You want to have one person confirm, say, okay, thank you for going through this. And it could be someone from your sponsor research office, because at that point, you're not looking for content changes. You're not looking for that paragraph that's missing, right? At that point, you're just making sure that it's all formatted right. There are no spelled words that are spelled wrong. I mean, at that last 5 feet before you want to submit the grant, you want to make sure that you're not editing for content, right? You've got it. And some of it is you just got to trust yourself. I mean, what is the worst thing that can happen? It get not funded. Nope. The worst thing can happen is it not get submitted. Holding on to it too long, that's terrible. Come on. We have to be able to press go. And that's brave and that's courageous. And I want you to be able to do it. And when you do it, and I know you're all going to submit your grants, and that's going to be great. You know that submitting a grant means that you put in hours, hundreds of hours of sweat equity. Celebrate the submission. Celebrate right then. And when you get your confirmation from your peer reviewers and they say, hey, we got your grant. Looking forward to reviewing it. That's great. Thank you. You can do an email response, say, thank you for confirming that you received the grant. I look forward to hearing from the peer reviewer's response. And then when you get your peer review response, whether they say go or don't go, funded or not funded, whatever their decision is, remember to thank them. And you can do it the old-fashioned way and send them a thank you card. You can send them an email. Thank you very much. I appreciate the feedback. Everything that you do is a step in a positive direction. You're making progress.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, and actually one thing that me and my mentor always did when I was doing my postdoc is I would help him in the grant research strategy section, and then we write a lot of good stuff that he thinks, well, can you take all of these pieces and put them in a manuscript, like a conceptual paper, and then concept paper, and then that's what we do. We submit that one and we feel good about it, and then we continue writing the grant. And by the time we submit this officially, it might get accepted because the turnaround is short or something. So that always felt good.
And I love the stepping stones of success. Absolutely right. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm.
So do we have any questions, comments, parting shots? Are you guys finding the tag helpful? Are you guys using your tags? Did anyone not get one?
I find it super helpful, especially with the first activity. It really helped me to think of the broader impacts and the whole picture that I was trying to come up with. So that actually helped me and motivated me to reach out the program manager, because I finally felt that, okay, I have something that can lead to this. So yeah, it's been super helpful.
Excellent. I'm so glad. I think that what we want to do is just continue to make progress. And I know that some of us, when I see you guys in the room and when I hear about it on email, that you guys are writing all of this stuff in the tag and using every page, which is great. And then when you are ready to transfer that information to your Word document or to your PowerPoint slide, you're developing it, you're developing your ideas, and it really helps you to capture those ideas. When I do grant writing boot camps here at the university, you know, we encourage our faculty, our grant writers to journal, and we give them a journal. Of course, it says University of South Florida on it, but we talk to them about how you write down all your ideas, and it makes it more concrete and allows you to capture it, because as you are creating and thinking about and developing and meeting people and talking about it, what you find is you have so many ideas, and it's like fireworks. And if you have somewhere to capture it all, then you can go back. It's like, what did we talk about last month? That's right. And we see a lot of that also when you meet together with a lab. Say you're a scholar or a scientist, and you meet with your graduate students and your undergrads, and you maybe have another colleague, and you have a monthly meeting and you talk about all the research that's happening in the lab. Then this is also a great habit for you to instill in the people that you're mentoring. Have them capture their ideas and write things down in their lab journal and keep it documented. And down the road, what you'll find is you'll see that these lab journals will line up like books on a shelf, right? And you'll say, wow, look at the progress my research has made. I'm really looking forward to seeing all your projects come to life. I know you're going to make such a big difference in the world. Thank you for joining us today on Funding Friday. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your afternoon and a great weekend. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you on Wednesday.